What's up, Dark Souls 2 fans? Twisted on back again with some more Dark Souls 2 commentary. This time I'm going to be talking about the evolution of PvP so far in my experience. In this video you will see me use either a Drakekeeper Longsword in the right hand, dark imbued, a Chaos Blade in the left hand, dark imbued, or a Scion Halberd in the right hand, dark imbued, and the Chaos Blade, dark imbued in the left hand. And I'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. Real quick, I'm running the unique set of armor there that gives me pretty good defense, and it looks pretty cool. You know, I mean, it's not like full Havels. It's got around 1,000 defense. Full Havels, I think, probably has something, I can't really remember, 12, 1300. And then of course if you went with a different helmet like the Smelter Demon helmet or something, I think you would actually have 1400 defense, and that's just a rough estimate off the top of my head. But try to look cool at least, and I'm not wearing that ridiculous looking Jester's armor, which a lot of people do wear to prevent backstab. I've actually got the Galwer's ring on, which is kind of gives you a blue illuminating aura on your back there. You can't really see the ghost much when you're a Red Phantom, but that's what I'm using here. You can take a look at these videos while I talk about some of the PvP changes that I've noticed here in the arena, and that's where I spend most of my time, is in the arena, because I like good old 1v1s here, at least in this moment. And I've noticed the progression of, you know, random players and how they've adapted to the meta and stuff like that. At first, you know, I was using, and you can check out my other videos, I have a poison katana video that I would, you know, dual wield katanas and poison my enemy. But I realized that especially against full Havels guys and stuff, you're not going to do much damage with dex weapons, just because of the scaling is kind of messed up. I mean, you're better off going with a weapon imbued than buffing it for good damage. And these days you'd be surprised, you know, you're not going to do a lot of damage even with a buff imbued weapon the way elemental defense is. It seems like everybody's kind of figured that out, that you know, strengthening your elemental defense with a GMB and you know, like a Spellcorch ring or something is very, I guess, advantageous to your PvP encounters. And then, you know, I had I guess I was kind of wanting to treat Dark Souls 2 as Dark Souls 1 and kind of go with Katana and some Pyromancy, but that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. The Pyromancy is not as good, in my opinion, as Dark Souls 1, where you could a faster paced game, you could have, you know, threw some fire around and you had poise, and, you know, you didn't get stunned in one hit, so that was better than, you know, walking around on this game throwing something. I've got a Pyromancy video if you want to check that out. It should be my video, not this one. It should be my second newest one from this video here that you're watching now. And then, you know, I went the resonant weapon way. I had most of the people beat in the arena with you know, people were still bringing out their crystal magic weapon, like great swords and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't see a lot of resonant weapon. Every now and then I did, but I had resonant weapon on Chaos Blade, and I also was using a I guess the what is it, Great Resonant Soul. I was using that. I had a little good combo going on. We'd be running R1 with Katana, and then they roll away, and I hit them with a Resonant Soul for a good 900 to 1,000 damage. But it turned out that, you know, I eventually gave up all spells, just for the fact that the spells in this game, in my opinion, are, and you can be hit by them. I'm not saying you can't, and they do hurt unless you know, got some good elemental defenses, but they're too telegraphic, you know, and unless you got some kind of backstab mechanism preventing you from being backstabbed. I mean, a lot of the spells are, according to the distance between you and your opponent, you can be roll BS quite easy. So, and if you check out my Pyromancy video that I uploaded, you notice I'm wearing the Jester's armor. I don't like the way it looks. I mean, kind of ties in with the Jester Thomas thing, but, you know, it is what it is. I couldn't have everybody roll BS in my fireballs and my firestorm attempts, or, you know, I'd never win anything. So that was what that was about. So I went ahead and got me some spices, and if you don't know where to farm spices, I can tell you, in the Undead Crypt, I think you get the Simpleton Spice is the one for the intelligence. And every time I would kindle that bonfire to go down to get the soul vessel and the treasure chest below, I'd also go ahead and right outside the bonfire pick up a Simpleton Spice. I eventually built a lot of those up. You can also get them in the Balefire Soul. It's a little bit harder. You get 3, I think, from there, but you have to run through all those enemies. And then the Faith Spice, you have to keep kindling the Balefire Luna bonfire and fighting the gargoyles over and over. You'll get 3, then you kill the gargoyles, and you can kindle again, and you get 3 again. And I went ahead and spiced the GMB and the resonant weapon down to 10 each. That way I can kind of min-max the stats more better in that regard, and it allowed me to, you know, since I wasn't using spells, and really the scaling on stat investment is not that good when it comes to buffs or dex or anything, you know. So I went ahead and minimum stats to wheeled weapons, went ahead and viewed them, and just started buffing them with a 10-10 setup, and that was very good for min-maxing statistics. If you know, you're not going to use any spells. And as I mentioned before, I don't use any spells anymore. I went ahead and after, you know, people started using Dark Fog in the arena with the bat staff. You know, that takes like 25 intelligence. I think you gotta have to do that. I made a build around that where I was using Dark Fog as well, and really it didn't really work out the way I wanted to. I'm sure you can one-shot poison somebody, and you could kill a lot of people like that, but I mean, really, when it comes down to people that, you know, are aware of Dark Fog and stuff, they would just poison blossom out of it. A lot of times they would take a hit from if you can punish them, but a lot of times they wouldn't. So it just depends on who you're fighting. So I deem that not necessary. And as I was fighting more people that was using Dark Fog, I myself started using the blossoms, and really it wasn't much of a threat anymore to me. So if I could evolve past the fact of being killed by Dark Fog, then I know that my opponent can. So I went ahead and included that out of my build. As far as weapons goes, you know, I started off with a Chaos Blade, and then I went to the Washing Pole probably last week and a half ago, and I realized the Washing Pole I liked a lot better. It was longer, and I could actually tell the difference. However, I started losing a lot of matches, and because the katanas, they don't do a lot of damage. I mean, you get a 160 bonus, I think, from a dark Washing Pole. They don't do a lot of damage, and their hitbox is not accurate. Like the running R1 is fine, that's good, but also the running R1 is very telegraphic, and it's easy for people just to roll away, you know. And if you're just relying on the running R1, then you're going to be really telegraphic. And I started getting parried a lot, so I said, okay, let's, you know, mix it up a little bit. And the R1s will stun to R1 to R1, at least with the Chaos Blade Washing Pole, but that delay between the second and third attack would kind of end your stun log. And being that you're not doing much damage anyway, especially when your buff wears off, having a lot of trouble there with some opponents. So I went ahead, and that's why I wanted the katana on the left hand. But if the primary use was to close the distance, you know, if I stay at a distance outside of my opponent's range, and if they want to close the distance, what weapon can I use to punish them for closing the distance? Well, I'll say right here, you know, I'm using the longsword. It's fast, it's spammable, it's got good recovery, so if I miss, I can either follow up again if they're trying to punish my miss, or I could get away. So the recovery is good on that. And later when I switched to Science Halberd, I mean, it's kind of the same way. It's not as quick as the longsword, but it does a lot of damage, and it stuns well. So, and I guess that's the case with a lot of halberds. I mean, I don't know, that's the only one I've really ever used PvP. And then, you know, if I have an opponent who's not wanting to engage, just kind of sitting back waiting for me, then I can bridge the gap between not in a combat range. If we're not in combat range, I can bridge the gap to them with a running L1 from a Chaos Blade. And most of the time here, you know, I'm playing unlocked, and it's definitely more non-telegraphic. Whereas if I was just using a katana and if I was playing locked on. So that is, you know, my whole theory right now. It's worked really good for me. You know, I went through a period where I was losing a few matches there just using the katana. You know, I started switching my things up, my tactics and stuff, and I started really to win a lot of matches again. So it's worked for me. The Gallows Ring's really good. I got that on, like I said earlier, to prevent backstabs. And the Claymore. I say if my favorite weapons, I would say would be, probably the Chaos Blade, Scion's Halberd, Drakekeeper Longsword, and probably the Claymore would be last. And, I use it every now and then, but it's not one of my. It's not something I would go to at the current time. I mean, it's better than some of the other stuff I had practice with probably, but I've even tried the Grand Lance combos. The Grand Lance, Infinite Stunlock, dual wielding combinations. And if you want to check out that video, I've got a video about dual wielding Infinite Stunlock combination. You can check that out on my video page. But the Grand Lance, I was using that a lot, and it's too defensive. Like here, I have the katana. I can bridge the gap, and I've got a faster right hand weapon. Grand Lance kind of leaves yourself open a lot, in my opinion. So I've seen a lot of people use it. I think this guy right here is using it, ain't he? And you'll see how he's so aggressive coming into me. I'm just waiting for a good, a stop hit. That's what I call it. Where they're trying to come in and engage me, but I interrupt their engagement with, just a good thrust. So as far as techniques, the evolution, my favorite techniques are the roll BS off, great sword, ultra great swords, and not great swords, but ultra great swords and spells. And then I've been using a lot of pivot BS, especially with all these guys trying to backstep parry. And I don't do a lot of parries here in this video at least, but you have a lot of guys that are trying to do backstep parry stuff, and a good pivot BS is really good on them, because you have some people that just spam it over and over and over. But I find that if you do a good pivot BS, play unlocked, you kind of can read their movements a little better. And parry, I've utilized the parry. I'm not, since I've been using the Chaos Blade in left hand, but when I have my shield or have my parry and dagger, I would utilize the parry off a follow-up of a missed attack of mine. But that's it for this video, guys. A good, quick 12-minute video. I hope you enjoyed it. Next time I'll be going more in depth on some things. So appreciate you watching, and go ahead and like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.